As guitarists, we learn scales in positions. Fifth position would be the fifth fret, right? These positions present themselves as patterns, right? Patterns of notes. We learn these patterns. Here's a very familiar one. Fifth fret minor pentatonic scale. It's a familiar pattern, right? What we don't have access to is that the pattern is a symptom, a product of two different constraints. One is the architecture or the DNA of the scale, how it's built, what the intervals are. And the second is notes per string. How many notes are played on each string before you move to the next one? When you play scales as patterns and you attach to the pattern itself, you miss out on a ton of context. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris. Today you will learn how to find the DNA of a scale. We're going to be using the minor pentatonic scale today. But what is this DNA stuff? What are you talking about? I'm talking about the architecture of a scale. Every scale is unique, and scales are built using intervals. So there's a distance between notes. That distance between the notes defines what the scale sounds like. It's the scale's DNA, right? That architecture of the intervals between those notes defines what the scale sounds like. As I said in the top, when we just look at the patterns, we're robbed of that context because it's just a pattern of dots on the neck. You've had this experience before where you're playing, you're improvising, and you're wondering, okay, well, I've played this position, this pattern a number of times. Maybe I should move to pattern number 2. Why? Why is pattern number 2 any better than pattern number 1? There are only 5 notes in the scale. So it doesn't matter where you are. If you're playing the 5 notes of the scale, the position and the pattern doesn't matter. So what we're going to do today is attach to the DNA so we can understand the scale's personality and we can evoke that. We can control it. Because right now, whether we like it or not, we are creating and dismantling sonic tension. Musical tension is being created and destroyed, and I have no control over it whatsoever. Right? I'm just blasting through because it's just a blob of notes. Okay, we're going to zoom in here in a second, but let me just say one more thing. This DNA, you can do this with any scale. We're going to use the minor pentatonic scale today because it's easy, because we know it. But you can do this with the harmonic minor scale. You can do it with any scale you want to. What I'm going to show you now is the method by which you uncover that DNA. Much more about the tool than it is about the minor pentatonic scale specifically. Okay, let me stop blathering. We'll zoom in and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, scale DNA. What is that? Scales are made up of intervals. Intervals are the distance between 2 notes. From this note to this note is an interval. Scales are just a string of intervals put together. Every scale has a different set of intervals. That defines its musical sound, right? That set of intervals, that architecture, is the scale's DNA. That defines how the scale sounds and how we hear it. So let's just take an example, the A minor pentatonic scale. I'm going to put it down here. Now what you're seeing is the notes in the scale in a couple of different ways. First, I'm just putting them in relation to the root, like how far away they are from the root. There's the root, the flat 3, the 4, the 5, the flat 7, and we're back to the root again. You're also seeing the distance between those notes. Between the root and the flat 3 is a minor third. Between the flat 3 and the 4 is a whole step. 4 and 5 are a whole step apart. 5 to that flat 7, that's a minor third distance. Flat 7 back to the root is a whole step. So that's the architecture. I've also put in the note names here because in the key of A minor pentatonic, we might need that information, and we definitely are going to. Okay, so now we've got the DNA, right? We've got the architecture of the scale, and it's pretty cool. We've got a couple of minor third intervals here, and there's some whole steps. I can attach myself to that, right? I get it. Let's look at our minor pentatonic scale and just see what happens here. Did you follow the architecture there? I didn't. I didn't even really know what I was playing. Just some pattern, right? It's just a pattern of notes I learned. Okay, so let's get curious about this. we've got the architecture, right? It's 5 notes. Let's just count these notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's a serious problem here. Okay, this is a 5-note scale, so it must be inside here somewhere. But I'm not really able to see it. Let's just start taking a look and see if we can uncover it. Starting on the A, on the E string, 5th fret. From that A, that root to the flat 3 is a step and a half. Pretty easy. I'm connected to the architecture pretty well. From that flat 3 to the 4 is a whole step. So this is a whole step. That's not easy to see. That does not look like a whole step to me. But that's all right. We'll just go on. We're just trying to get the architecture in here. From the 4 to the 5 is a whole step. Well, that's all right. That seems fine. From the 5 to the flat 7 is another minor third. Okay, so this is a minor third. Okay, all right. Cognitive load building here. I've got to track what these intervals look like across the strings. But here I am on the flat 7. Flat 7 up to the root is a whole step. I finished the scale. But that's a little hard to see. It's all right, but let's just keep going. I'm at the beginning again. Root up to the flat 3 is a minor third. Okay, yeah, I remember this. That's a minor third. When you cross strings, it looks like that. Okay, now I'm on the flat 3. Up a whole step from the flat 3 is the 4. I'm seeing what's going on here. When I'm on one string, the architecture is very clear. When I cross strings, it's harder to see, right? It's going to be a little bit of a stumbling block. It's a speed bump for me. Here I am on that 4. 4 up a whole step goes to the 5. Now, wait a minute. That's a whole step. Here on this set of strings, it was a minor third. Now here it's a whole step. Oh yeah, the B string is tuned down. Okay, cognitive load building. All right, I got it. I'm on the 5. From the 5 to the flat 7 is a minor third. I got that. That looks easy. And then it's a whole step to the root. Oh yeah, I remember that from here. But now, okay, I did it. I got through it. It looks like when you're on the same string, it's easy to see. When you cross strings, it's harder to see. Okay, that's a bit of cognitive load. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to map this architecture onto the A string. And we're just going to go from the nut to the 12th fret, and we're going to follow this architecture. We're just going to slow it down, listen to it, open our ears and open our minds a little bit. Here's that A note. That's my root. Up a minor third is our flat 3. From the flat 3 to the 4 is a whole step. From the 4 to the 5 is a whole step. So easy to see. From the 5 to the flat 7 is a step and a half, a minor third. We're on the flat 7 here, and then we'll get back to our root. Wow, it's easy to see, and I can start to hear it as well. I'm completely connected to the architecture now. Pretty cool. All right, let's do it on the next string. Next string is D. If we're going to start on a D, we're starting on the 4. Okay, so there's the D. Up a whole step to the 5. Now it's a step and a half to the flat 7. I can start to hear what's going to come next. That whole step above the flat 7 is the root. From the root, up a minor third to the flat 3, and then a whole step to where we started from. I'm always going to end on the root, so I'm really attached, right? I'm really attaching to this architecture. Let's go to the G string. From this diagram, we can tell we're on the flat 7. We're starting the scale on the flat 7. It's a whole step up to the root. Totally resolved, right? From the root up a minor third is that flat 3. I'm really starting to hear the scale now. Flat 3 to 4 is a whole step. 4 to 5 is a whole step. 5 to flat 7, which is where we started, is a minor third. Listen to hear how unresolved that sounds? If we want to resolve it up to the root, it's just a whole step from here. Totally connected to the DNA of the scale. Let's do the next string. It's a B string. Oh, there's no B in this scale. So we're going to start on a C. That looks like the closest note. Here's one on the first fret. That's the minor third. Whole step up to the 4. Whole step up to the 5. 5 to flat 7 is a minor third. I'm hearing it, right? That whole step up from there is going to be the root. From that root, up a minor third is the flat 3. Totally connected to the DNA here, right? Let's do the E string and we'll be done. Here's our E. We're starting on the 5 here. Minor third up to the flat 7. That flat 7 is just a whole step away from the root. Right? I'm phrasing the scale. I can hear it. And I see what I'm doing. I can understand what I'm doing. From that root, it's a minor third, a step and a half up to the flat 3. From that flat 3, it's a whole step to the 4 and a whole step to the 5. Right? I'm completely attached to the architecture. I'm taking this scale along single strings to remain connected to the architecture, right? Because this is a zombie who doesn't know where the scale starts and ends. And this is a musician who knows all about the architecture, right? I'm playing to the architecture. I'm connected to the DNA of the scale. Okay, that was not rocket science, right? We're just taking the scale, getting the formula together, and then putting that on a single string and just noticing it, right? Not a super hard thing to do. Not like, some crazy technical thing. But what it does do is it changes you from a pattern zombie into a musician. Right? I know where those notes are. I know what they sound like. I know what they're going to sound like before I play them. And that makes me a musician, right? That I am doing something musical. Okay, I've tabbed this out. Meanwhile, the tabs don't even matter. This is a brain exercise. Okay, no longer a pattern zombie. You are a musician. A musician understands what they're doing. They understand when they're creating and destroying musical tension, and that's their responsibility. I hope you enjoy this. I hope it helps, and I'll see you next time.